What's going on, everybody? It's your man, Louie T. Louie T Network podcast, late night Louie edition. Just got finished watching episode 2 of Hard Knocks. HBO Max, for a minute there, felt like they didn't want us to watch the episode. Got on the app a little bit later than normal. It's supposed to release at 9 o'clock. It didn't get up there until after 10:15-ish. So, consumed episode 2. I'm going to break that down, talk about some happenings around the National Football League, take a look at the preseason slate for week number 2 of the preseason, among other topics. Y'all know what it is. It's the Louie T Network podcast. You're locked in, and it starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 440th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Feels good to be back behind the mic, and I appreciate each and every single one of you for kicking it with the kid on this late night edition. So let's not delay. Let's get straight to the proceedings this evening. Gym dropping session, Hard Knocks episode 2. Let's get it. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. So, episode 2 of Hard Knocks. And I love the way that it started off. Hard Knocks with the training camp with the Chicago Bears, for those of you who are not aware and are not watching. Started off with Jonathan Owens, the husband of Simone Biles. They chronicled his journey to Paris to watch his wife perform in the Olympics, win a few gold medals. He came back, watched her on the beam. That didn't go as well. She still got a medal, right? So anyway, they started off the episode with him coming back to the facility and kind of giving his wife a standing ovation. He stood up, spoke about, going to see his wife and her winning and what it meant and all that good stuff. I just love the fact that they're shining a light on him and her greatness. And I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So that's how the episode started. Then you move on to something that I just found very interesting. And I don't know why I act as if I don't know that they do these types of things, but it's just wild to see it actually transpire in an episode of Hard Knocks. So they have Caleb Williams sitting down and they're giving him the bio of the head official. And they're telling, because, I don't think a lot of people realize this, but these officials aren't full-time employees. They only work 6 months out of the year. So these aren't their, year-round jobs. They work elsewhere. So he was talking about where the head official, I don't remember which one it was, but they were giving him the lowdown here. He works at a Christian school or something like that. I don't remember where exactly he worked, and kind of giving him some talking points to kind of chum it up with the official. And he's like, look, there's 17 different crews. You're probably not going to go through each and every single one of them for at least 2.5 years. Most of these crews you'll see once or twice a year. And so you need to get to know a lot of these head officials. They're going to become your best friend. And then, when he was saying this, and giving him talking points and things of that nature. And he's like, hey, they're going to be in the league for a long time, and you're going to be in the league for a long time. So you better get to know them. And he's like, yeah, I get it. And, I just think back to like a guy like Aaron Rodgers and how he's chumming it up with the official. He knows him on a first name basis and they're chopping it up. And that's a part of the business. That's the part of the game, right? You want that personal foul penalty? You got to get to know, Ed Hockley, right? Like, um, and that not that it's going to, actually get you the penalty, but it doesn't hurt, right? And so it was funny hearing that and hearing him be schooled up on the head official and hey, better get to know that guy. Talk to him a little bit. I'm actually amazed at how much these officials come up and talk to these players during the course of a game. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm acting as if they're not humans and that's what happens, right? But I don't know. I don't know if I just thought that they'd just be out there reffing the game and staying silent. Yeah, right. Anyway, here's something that I find interesting, and I want to know what you guys think about this. So in this episode, Caleb Williams is in the quarterback room chopping it up with the other quarterbacks, and they're talking about football experiences. And I think one of the quarterbacks was talking about his first memory, like the first thing he remembers as a kid. And they start talking about football and when they started playing and things of that nature. And Caleb Williams is like, yo, if they get flag football in 2028, I'm playing, right? He's not the first NFLer to say something along those lines. And I wonder how teams would approach that if that is a thing in 2028. We've heard rumblings and grumblings about the Olympics. And look, at this point, why the hell not? Why wouldn't flag football be an official sport of the Olympics in 2028? If there's breakdancing and some of these stupid ass made up sports that I just saw in the 2024 Summer Olympics, then why can't flag football be an official Olympic sport in 2028? Make it happen, right? I saw this. I don't know if you guys saw this, and I don't even know if this is real. You got to be careful. It's very, very dangerous out on those social media streets. You have to be very, very careful. As a wise man once said, be very, very careful. I saw an article, and I don't know how true this is. And I part of me should have clicked on it and read it, but I was like, this is clickbait. I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. And so I'm just gonna say that it's not true and keep it pushing, but maybe it is. I saw an article that said Michael Parsons said if the Olympics adopts flag football as an official sport for 2028, he's going to take some time off in 2027 to prepare for the 2028 flag football Olympics. And I went, what? Time off like during the season time off or time off in the off season, or what are we talking about here? What's fascinating hearing him or reading that and not knowing if it's true or not, but even having that out there and then hearing Caleb Williams say what he said, watching the Olympics, watching the US basketball men's team do what they did, and I think these other athletes fantasize about having the opportunity to win a gold medal. And if they can get there by playing flag football, then sign them up, right? I mean, how many times do you get an opportunity to represent your country and win a gold medal in the process and say that I'm an Olympic gold medalist? You just don't, especially if you're a football player, right? There's nothing there for you. So that'll be interesting if they actually create a an Olympic sport for flag football, and how many players would actually be trying to get into that? And what would be the rules? Could you have professional NFL players? Will they limit it to certain types of players? Because I looked at the 3-on-3 competition and I'm like, that's the best we can send over for the U.S. men's 3-on-3 competition. Like, what's the criteria for that? And I don't know what the skill level of all the countries are there, but why not send over 3 really good NBA players to do that? And why don't other countries send over 3 really good players from their country and have 3-on-3? That would be pretty dope. Instead of having, what was the name of the dude? Jimmer Fredette, be your best player on the 3-on-3 basketball team. And I don't even know if they medaled at all, right? Maybe they got a bronze, maybe. So anyway, I digress. I thought this was a funny line. So Chad Morton is the Bears running backs coach, and he played in the NFL for probably a good 7-8 years. Played with the Jets, broke into the league with the Jets, played with my Commanders. Then they were the Redskins, and had a little cup of tea in Washington for maybe 2-3 years, and then finished up, I think, with the Giants, if I'm not mistaken. He's a really good return man, and a quality third down back you could throw it to out of the backfield, hand it to on draws and things of that nature. But his calling card was in the return game. Anyway, he's the Bears running backs coach, and he was talking to one of the young undrafted rookie running backs in the room, Ian Wheeler, which we'll talk about here in a second, or who we'll talk about here in a second. And he's talking to him, and he's got this look on his face, and he kind of just looks stoic, right? Like there's no emotion on his face. He's emotionless. And Chad Morton's messing with him, like, why you always look like that? Do something with your face, man. He's like, that's just how I look. He's like, you look like Eeyore. You know who Eeyore is? And he's like, yeah, I know who Eeyore is. I watch Winnie the Pooh. And he's like, oh, so you know who Eeyore is? You watch Winnie the Pooh. You like Winnie the Pooh? And he's like, yeah, I like Winnie the Pooh. He said, you like Winnie the Pooh? He said, man, get your ass over there. Or you like Winnie the Pooh. If you've ever played on a team at any level, especially in high school and above, that's the best part of playing the sport, is the camaraderie. You hear guys say it all the time. I miss the guys, right? If you're on a good team, this doesn't apply to every team, because every team isn't made up of good dudes that you just get down with and can vibe with naturally and organically. Some teams are full of dudes that are just pricks. And so with a bunch of egos and coaches that are trash, and it's not a fun experience. But if you get on a team with good dudes and really good coaches and a great vibe, it's the best. You can't beat it. You really cannot beat being on a great team with people that you generally like. You genuinely like being around. It is the best. And it's those types of moments, just those little types of conversations like, you like Winnie the Pooh? Get your ass out of here. Right? That's the stuff that I miss. That's the stuff that's hilarious to me, right? Speaking of Ian Wheeler, this is a guy that is a med student, or I don't think he wants to go to med school, and he wants to be a doctor. And I think he said he wanted to be. What did he say he wanted to be? I don't know if he said a psychologist. He said he wanted to be something. I don't remember what it was exactly, but he's one of those smart guys, right? Which is awesome. You love to see it. But he wants to live out his dream, and that's to play in the NFL. And he's plenty fast, apparently. And I'm watching him, and I'm like, yeah, he's moving. He's moving, right? So he's going to be one of the guys, I take it. And you always, when you watch Hard Knocks, if you're a Hard Knocks veteran, you always wait to see, all right, Where are the 3 or 4 guys you're going to follow who are undrafted that are going to try to make the team? Where are they at? They don't always get to them in the first episode, but usually, generally, they get to them in that second episode. They got to him in this episode. So we got Theo Bennett. We'll get to him in a second. In the first episode, obviously things did not go well for him in the Hall of Fame game. He got injured. But so they have to follow other guys now because Theo Benedict is out. So Ian Wheeler is going to be one of those guys. Austin Reed is going to be another one of those guys, the quarterback. And then Velus Jones Jr., who is a third-year guy. He's not undrafted. He's not this long shot to make the roster, but he is making a positional change. They're going to highlight him because he's fighting for a roster spot. As you can see, he was once, a receiver, drafted out of Tennessee, return man, all of that good stuff. They don't need him now after all of the moves that they've made to upgrade the wide receiver position. DJ Moore, obviously Keenan Allen, drafting Rome Odunze. They're loaded at receiver now. And so they're like, yo, you got to make yourself valuable by playing multiple positions. The more you can do, right? So I think they're going to kind of follow him around. I wonder if they're going to follow around Austin Booker. We're going to get to him. If you've been following me and you watch my draft content, then you know where I'm going when we get to Austin Booker. Anyway, Theo Benedict. Let's talk about him briefly. So they did a follow-up with Theo Benedict. He's injured. He's going to be out for a little while. But obviously, if you're on a show like Hard Knocks and you do what he did, which was rip off his pants and only have on an American Eagle Speedo, you're going to turn some heads and garner some attention. To the likes of which he was contacted by People magazine. And he talked about some of his interactions on social media. He was being accosted by a 40-year-old woman with 2 kids. And someone tweeted at him, "My eagle has landed," with a winking emoji. So your life can change overnight if you do something crazy on Hard Knocks. And so Theo Benedict now falls into that conversation and category. And good for him. He may never make it in the NFL, but he's got his 15 seconds of fame. Hopefully he takes full advantage of it. How about the interception dance that Jalen Johnson and Elijah Hicks did at practice? I love that. Yo, that was dope. I enjoyed that interception dance. There was a back and forth there between 2 of the best, Jalen Johnson on the defensive side and Keenan Allen on the offensive side. And Keenan's like, yo, I haven't caught a ball on this dude all training camp long. I'm finna change that though tomorrow. But it didn't change. And he's like, something always goes wrong when I'm going up against this dude. And somehow they got an interception and he said, "Hey, interception dance." Yeah, that was dope. I enjoyed the interception dance. They were having some fun out there. Iron sharpens iron. Those two going against each other, only going to make them better. And, he wanted a long-term deal in the offseason. He got it from the Bears. And right now, he is playing high-level football, is Jalen Johnson, one of the better corners in the National Football League. How about hot dog ice cream? Who's signing up for that shit? Okay. I can't imagine me going somewhere for ice cream and someone coaxing me to try hot dog ice cream. I'm going to pass. They put relish on the shit, mustard on it. There's certain things that aren't supposed to cross-pollinate. I don't need hot dogs, and I get it, it's Chicago. I don't need hot dogs infiltrating my ice cream. Thank you, but no thanks. All right? Yikes. DJ Moore, his daughter tasted it and she was like, "Yeah, I'm good, bro." And then he tasted it and he was like, no comment. He basically, without saying anything, said no comment because he didn't want to trash the ice cream on camera. But he was like, "Yeah, this ain't it, bro. This ain't it." I always tell people I stick to the script. I'm big on sticking to the script. What do I mean by that? I'm not going to IHOP to eat a hamburger. IHOP may have fantastic burgers. I go to IHOP for breakfast food, not for burgers. If I want a TV, I'm gonna go to Samsung, right? I'm not gonna look to buy a LG TV. They might have good TVs, and that's cool, but I'll let them stick to like phones, and I know they do electronics, and same thing with Samsung. They they all do the same thing. Samsung, great TVs. I want a TV, I'll get a Vizio or a Samsung or something like that. Like I'm sticking to the brands that I know. I don't want an Emerson, right? If I go somewhere for ice cream, I want something sweet. I don't want hot dog flavored ice cream. That's wild, wild stuff. And then there's Austin Booker. And let's talk about the Buffalo Bills preseason game number 1. We've already done this on the channel, so I don't need to get really in depth with like Caleb Williams and his afternoon and things of that nature. But it was a great debut for him. I was impressed. I talked about it already. But Austin Booker, my God. I'm jealous. Not going to lie. He was a 5th-round pick. My Commanders had 2 5th-round picks. I don't remember exactly where he was selected as to in relation to where the Commanders made their 2 selections. I'd like to think that he was available before the first of their 2 selections. I don't think he made it to their second one. He could have been gone before they took either one of their players in the 5th round, but I wanted Austin Booker on the Commanders very badly. And I said that this guy is the reincarnation of Max Crosby. He's a big ball of energy. He's got long limbs. He's active. He's bendy. He can do it all. And he's so young and raw that if you mold him correctly, this guy's going to be a monster. And I kept talking about him. 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 To the point where Commanders fans were like, yo, we want Austin Booker too. And it was like, oh, we didn't get your boy when the Bears took him. And I was like, I didn't think we would get him. I never get what I want. I never get what I want. To see him doing what he's doing, I'm not surprised. 2.5 sacks in that game versus the Bears. Very disruptive in the Hall of Fame game versus the Texans. Not surprised. That kid has it. And meanwhile, my team is struggling at defensive end. We have 0 talent behind the veterans that we brought in this offseason. 0 talent behind those veterans. We could have had a guy like Austin Booker. I'm not saying. I'm just saying he'll be fun to watch, and I'll be keeping close tabs on Austin Booker. He's going to make that team. Oh, you bet your ass he will. He's going to make that team. And I think he's going to be very effective. Maybe not this year, but down the road, Austin Booker is going to be a problem in this league. You remember I said that. How about their head coach, Matt Eberflus, stressing turnovers? Like, hey, we got to get turnovers. Hey, that's such a defensive coach thing, right? He's like, we can't leave this game without a defensive turnover. We have to force a turnover. And he's stressing it. And he's talking in the mic to his defensive coordinator. You tell the guys they got to get a turnover. We need a turnover. We got to force a turnover. We can't leave this game without a turnover. And I'm thinking about my group, my guys, my Commanders. And I'm like, are you guys watching this? Ball is life, right? You guys watching this? The man demanded a turnover, and what does he get? A pick six. Guys, wake up. We got to start creating some turnovers here. We're dying over here. Ball is life, remember? We're dying over here. Wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up for some turnovers. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Come on. Get up, get up, get up for some turnovers. Voice almost went out on me there. Let me just stick to my smooth jazz 105.3 voice. Let me stick to that. Anyway, that was episode 2. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Looking forward to episode 3, see what they end up doing there. I wonder if they're going to play, Caleb Williams and some of these starters in preseason game number 2. Well, for them, it's preseason game number 3 because they participated in the Hall of Fame game. But I don't know. We'll see. We will see. Let's get to social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. I want to give a couple of tidbits here before we get to the comment section, and let me go ahead and put that out in the atmosphere. If you're out there, you're watching this show, you want to be a part of the show, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent. If you want to jump straight to the front of the line, ensure that your comment is read. Super chat function is the way to do that. We'll get to as many comments as we can if time permits. And then we'll move on to garbage time. So, before we get to the comment section, I want to throw a couple of things out there that I'm pretty sure you guys have already heard about. The biggest being rookie quarterback first round pick, top 10 pick quarterback, J.J. McCarthy of the Minnesota Vikings, to have surgery to repair a torn meniscus in his right knee. Wowzers. After a sparkling debut, and despite throwing an interception, you could argue, was the most impressive of all of the rookie quarterbacks that performed, because he played longer than any of the other quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round of this past spring's draft. And he looked damn good doing it. He is now out indefinitely with a torn meniscus in his right knee that will require surgery. And now they're mulling over what kind of surgery to have. Do we shave the disc in his knee, or do we just, perform full surgery? And if I'm JJ McCarthy, I am having the best procedure done. I'm not shaving anything, because that could lead to problems down the road that I'm not trying to endure just because I want to get back, early in my rookie season. To hell with that. How long is he going to be out for? Don't know. If you're a Viking fan, this sucks, man. Because you never wanted to sign up for Sam Darnold in the first place. And all you had to do was tell yourself that we might have to endure Sam Darnold for 2 to 4 weeks, but our guy's getting in there eventually, and then we can have some fun. You're going to have to suck up some Sam Darnold for at least the first half to 3/4 of the season before JJ McCarthy is able to come in and save you, or you might have to endure Sam Darnold for the entire season. Oh my God, that sucks ass. I mean, there's always Jaron Hall, right? Ooh, that's nasty. Man, I feel for Vikings fans. That sucks. And you got a taste too. That's the bad part. If you can't miss something that you've never had. You didn't get to see it. You could just tell yourself, well, you just got to wait a little bit longer to see what it looks like. You got to see it, and it looked good. Now it's been snatched from you for the time being, and you don't know when you're getting it back. That sucks. Feel bad for the Vikings. Get well soon, JJ McCarthy. Hopefully the surgery is performed sooner rather than later. It's successful, and he's back in the fold before we know it. Let's talk about the Brandon Aiyuk situation. So we got some information from our guy, Ian Rappaport. Here's the tweet he put out earlier today that sent off a bunch of bells and whistles. You get a lot of people clout chasing on social media, trying to sell you on this deal is done, this deal is in place. That if it ain't from Adam Schefter, if it ain't from Chef or Ian Rappaport, I ain't buying it. Or one of those, league insiders, I ain't buying it. So it's too many people now. The game has been contaminated. There's too many people out there with blue checks out here playing games. So I just keep it simple. If it ain't from Ian or respected beat reporter that I know of and know they don't play games on social media, if it's not from a trusted source, don't even bother sending it to me. People get got so often. I just laugh because people stay sending me stuff on social media. And I'm like, bro, this is not real. But it is what it is. But this right here is real. And Ian Rappaport talked about it on the Insider Show earlier today as well. And so I'll read you this tweet. He says, update on Brandon Aiyuk. The Steelers and 49ers have a deal on a potential trade, and Pittsburgh is in a good place on an Aiyuk contract, sources say. If San Francisco gives the final sign-off, it's done. However, here's the kicker. San Francisco has offered Aiyuk a long-term deal for him to stay. He hasn't accepted it. He doesn't think it's enough money, but the conversation has now started to heat up. There's dialogue, something that wasn't taking place a week ago. So those two sides are now rekindling conversations surrounding a long-term deal to keep him in San Francisco. Now, will it get done? Don't know. I've said for a very long time that I thought he was going to remain in San Francisco. I, however, did not believe it would be on a long-term deal. So either way, wherever this thing goes, I'm probably going to be wrong about how it turned out. Now, ultimately, I thought he'd be playing football for the San Francisco 49ers this year. That was my take. But I thought it would be for one more year and then they'd move on from him. I never thought he was getting a long-term deal in San Francisco because while they freed up enough money to pay him, what he wants, what they can afford, and what's coming down the pipeline for them may not align. And I just felt like you've paid so many players. Trent Williams is still holding out, by the way, and they have to pay him as well. And they're going to pay him, right? So how many of these guys can you actually afford to pay? You paid Fred Warner. You paid Mooney Ward. You paid George Kittle. You paid, Nick Bosa. You paid Debo Samuel, right? You paid Trent Williams, and you just gave new money to Christian McCaffrey. Like, how many of these guys can you afford to pay, knowing that Brock Purdy is waiting in the wings next year? Like, I just thought Aiyuk was the odd man out. Stay tuned on this situation, because if they can get to a position where Aiyuk is willing to sign, because he really wants to be in San Francisco. Who are we kidding? Most guys, when they say, I want to be traded, they only want to be traded out of frustration because they can't get a deal done. But normally, where you're drafted, if you're happy there, that's where you want to remain. That's home. So he really doesn't want to leave San Francisco. But he has to feel like he's wanted, and he's got to feel like the money matches what he feels like is his value. I don't know if the 49ers can get to a number that makes sense for him, but they're going to try. They're going to try. That's what it sounds like. And if it doesn't work and if they can't do it, they've got the deal in place with Pittsburgh. So it's a good place for San Francisco because they have options. But this has been an interesting dynamic here with Aiyuk. This thing is going back and forth, and it always feels like it's like this with the 49ers in particular. Um, I showed you a tweet, or I at least read one to you a while back from a 49ers beat reporter who pretty much said, look, the 49ers operate, on getting deals done at the, 25th hour, essentially. The Deebo Samuel thing was crazy. He wanted out, sounded like he was done. There was no, the point, they were at a point of no return. And then a week later, it felt like he had a long-term deal and he was staying in San Francisco, right? All of this back and forth with Aiyuk, all of this, scuttlebutt, him doing all of this crazy stuff. If he stays in San Francisco on a long-term deal, I will be shocked. Shocked. Pittsburgh is a good place for him if it does not work out in San Francisco. So all I know is I didn't want him in Washington, and not because he's not a good football player. We could definitely use him, and not that he's a head case. He's been, outside of this whole ordeal in this episode. And we've seen guys cut up looking for a contract. So he's not the first. He won't be the last guy to cut up looking for a contract. None of that is why I didn't want him in Washington. I didn't want him in Washington because his best friend is our starting quarterback. That's why I didn't want him in Washington. I didn't want that dynamic to rear its head, and I didn't want, anybody to feel like there was any type of favoritism going on or any of that. I just didn't want to deal with any of that stuff. So if he ends up in Pittsburgh, great. If he ends up back in San Francisco, great. I just know either way, it's going to be on a long-term deal, and he won't be coming to Washington next year. And I'm good with that. So that's something to continue to monitor. Will he go to Pittsburgh, or will he remain a San Francisco 49er? How about the Washington Commanders signing wide receiver Martavis Bryant? Yes, the same Martavis Bryant that was a part of the Killer Bees some 7 years ago. Yes, that same Martavis Bryant that was a part of Ben, Brown, Bell, and Bryant, the Killer Bees in Pittsburgh. How long ago does that feel like? Yeah, that same Martavis Bryant. He's 32 years old and hasn't played a snap in the NFL in over 6 seasons. What in the hell is going on in Washington? I don't know, but I'm anxious to find out. Will he make the roster? Don't know. I have no clue. What does he even look like on a football field these days? I don't know. But I'll be watching on Saturday to find out, because he's going to play, and I think he's going to play a bunch. So he's interesting because although he's 32 years old, there's a lot of tread left on those tires. He's not a normal 32-year-old in terms of NFL, years and wear and tear. There's a lot of football probably left in him. He's not your ordinary standard run-of-the-mill 32-year-old wide receiver where you're like, okay, the end is near. He said last year when the Cowboys signed him to the practice squad, he was 230 pounds. He's down to 208. So he's in really good shape. He looks good. And we'll see if he can put together a hell of a run, because it's going to take a hell of a run, to be honest. I know it's not the most talented group in Washington at the receiver position, but it's going to take a pretty good run, a significant run from him down the stretch of this preseason to make this football team. He just showed up 3 weeks into camp. It's hard to show up going into the second of 3 preseason games, the week of the second preseason game, and make enough of an impact to make an NFL roster. But he's going to try. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't intrigued. Stay tuned. And then lastly, how about Gerard Mayo? Gerard Mayo just doing shit in New England. I'm gonna be honest with you, fully transparent with you guys, full transparency. I love it. He's doing some real N-word stuff in a place where N-word stuff usually doesn't happen. For over 2 decades, it was all Belichick and the Patriot way, and it was easy to root against those guys. He comes in and he's marching to the beat of his own drum. Now, he is instituting some Belichickian-like principles, right? He's ruling with an iron fist because he came up in the Belichick way, but he's putting a twist on it. And I kind of like it. Did you hear this last quote from Did you hear this last quote from him about getting into a fight during these joint practices that they're going to have this upcoming week? He told the veterans, the starters, we're going to call them, the starters, if you get in a fight during the joint practices, you're going to play the entire preseason game. I think the Patriots play on Thursday, I think. If not Thursday, Saturday. There's no Friday game this week. So we'll take a look at the preseason slate here in a second. But he said, if you're a veteran, you're a starter, and you get in a fight during these joint practices, you're going to play the entire preseason game. If you're a young guy and you're fighting trying to make this roster and you get in a fight, your ass won't play at all. I don't know whether I love it, I hate it, or I'm in the middle, but I do know this. That's one hell of a way to incentivize not getting in a fight. No veteran wants to play. Well, look, some guys love ball and they wouldn't mind, playing the entire game, but no veteran wants to play in the preseason. It doesn't matter. It doesn't count. They love getting their few reps in, getting out, and rooting on the young fellas. Trust me, they would much rather be playing, but they don't want to play in a game that doesn't mean anything either. So no veteran wants to be out there playing against third stringers in the fourth quarter of a game that doesn't mean anything, knowing they should be on the sidelines with the rest of their teammates who are out of the game. And vice versa, if you're trying to make an NFL roster, the last thing you want to be doing is sitting out of the game, right? I don't know if he's going to keep his word. I wouldn't want to test him to find out either. But that's crazy to hear, right? I've never heard anything like that. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. We do have a couple of supers. We'll get to those, and then we'll get to the comment section. I see Mark David said, bruh, LG makes the best TVs. I wouldn't say the best. That they were a bad example. I was looking for Westinghouse. That's what I was looking for. I couldn't think of their name. Westinghouse and Emerson. I had an LG TV. It was okay. It wasn't great. I wasn't blown away by the quality of it. I'm going to be honest with you. But the worst TV I've ever had in my life is a Westinghouse TV. I will never. You couldn't give me a Westinghouse 80-inch TV for free. I don't want it. You can keep it. Okay. So the worst brand I've ever had in my life. That was what I was looking for, not LG. LG makes quality products. I had an LG TV. It was a cool TV. It was fine. It wasn't the best TV I had, but it was a good TV. Burger the Butcher. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Burger the Butcher writes, y'all pay the man. Hit the like button. I appreciate that. Public service announcement from Burger the Butcher. My name is Louie T, and I endorse that public service announcement. Hit Hit the like button if you haven't already done so. It's 115 of you out there, and we only got 35 likes. Make it make sense. The math ain't mathing here. That was from my guy, Burger the Butcher. Sorry. I forgot to hit the button. Hit the like button. Please and thank you. Black Al B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Black Al B writes, in the words of Flo Evans, damn, damn, damn. Yeah, I feel for you guys. I feel for you. That injury was straight do. You hate to see it, man. That's not ideal. And I was excited. I'm excited about all these rookies. And he was one of the guys I was excited about. And I was really looking forward to seeing him the remainder of the preseason. And eventually he was going to start in the regular season. There was no doubt. And he probably still will. It's just going to be delayed. That's all. But we'll see how they go about surgery and how long the healing process and recovery process will be. And then you go from there, right? But yeah, that sucks. It really, truly does. Anyway, let's get to the comment section real quick. Ghostwriter says, will JD be announced as the starter after the Dolphins game? I would bet just about any amount of money that sometime after the Dolphins game, and I'm not saying in the immediacy after the Dolphins game, like not in the immediate aftermath. He's not going to leave the game and say, and Jaden Daniels is QB1, but maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week. You know what? Here it is. Wednesday. He said they're going to treat next week like a real game week. Assuming that he doesn't meet with the media every day like he's been doing, that they have practice, because I'm assuming that the work week will look, if they're going to have a work week similar to mimicking a regular work week, then he won't meet with the media until Wednesday. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but assuming that that's the case, then it'll be Wednesday. If he meets with the media on Monday, then I think he might make the announcement Monday. But yes, I fully expect that's the process. He told us it's not a secret. So, I fully expect them to make the announcement going into this third preseason game. Ghost Rider also asks, you heard what Brian Mitchell said. Yeah, I'm at the point now where I tune Brian Mitchell out. Brian Mitchell is like the angry black man that spews venom whenever he sees fit. He's the old man, get off my lawn. He's cool. I don't dislike Brian Mitchell, but I'm at the point now where the act is tired, right? That act is tired. So I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know which receiver I don't care. I honestly don't give a damn. I don't care. Let's see. All right. Take one of John's, and then we'll get out of here and move on. John Wynn says, if I was watching the Olympics, I would rather watch men's soccer because men's soccer was better than girls' basketball. I don't agree with that necessarily. First of all, I'm not a soccer fan, so I'm the wrong person to make that statement to, because I'm biased and I don't try to hide it. I'm not a soccer fan. But I'll tell you this, I would have much rather watched soccer than the women's final, the gold medal game against France. That was brutal to watch. So, but that was the worst game of the Olympics. I haven't watched a sloppier game than that. So, that the women's U.S. team was involved in. Some of the other games might have been extremely sloppy and filled with turnovers and mistakes and missed opportunities. But with the U.S. women, that hadn't been the case until that game. So, yeah. Silver V, my guy, Silver Villains. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Silver V writes, "What's up, Louie T? What's up, Silver V?" Says, "The Bears head coach is the reason I can't buy in. So you're not a Matt Eberflus guy." You know what? They're slowly breaking down my Matt Eberflus wall. That's what these types of shows do a lot of times. Is I don't want to say they humanize people because Matt Eberflus is a human and he wasn't viewed as some type of tyrant, but he was an easy guy that you could look at and say, boy, he looks overwhelmed. This looks like a job that is just a bit too much for him. He's probably just a defensive coordinator, not a head coach. And when you put a guy on Hard Knocks and they start following you and your family and they give you that behind the scenes access and you see how much work the guy's putting in and you see the kind of environment that he's fostering, it kind of changes your perspective a bit. I I can't lie. I'm like, hey, I would like to see this guy have some success this year and not get fired because we know if it doesn't work this year, he's canned, right? It's crazy. After the first episode, I was like, ah, poor Matt Eberflus. He's doing all of this stuff. He bought that beautiful house on the lake, him and his wife, and they're gonna have to sell it after this year. That sucks. I hope it works out for him. Now, I say that not at the expense of my team missing out on the playoffs. If we're fighting for a playoff spot and the Bears are fighting for, hey, man, get them next time, old Matty. You know, but we'll see what happens with him. But you're not buying in because of Matt Eberflus. He says if anyone paid attention last year, he gave away games after having big leads and not running to protect the lead and Justin Fields. At the end of the day, everything that happened last year happened for a reason because Fields wasn't the answer in Chicago. And as much as Bears fans, got behind Fields and the players got behind him, I'm pretty sure a lot of them are like, yo, Caleb Williams is way better than Justin Fields. And you'll never get them to say that out loud and admit that because they got too much love and respect for Fields. But anybody there that was there last year or 2 years, the last 2 years in Chicago would probably tell you we're in a much better situation with Caleb Williams. So while Eberflus might have blown some games, and trust me, I think about the Lions game in particular. Like they had no business losing that game in Detroit. Zero. They should have won that game. And there are probably others that they could have won. It all worked out when it was all said and done. It all worked out for them. They ended up with Roma Dunze because they didn't win a bunch of games. And they made a trade that netted them the number 1 overall pick the year prior. And they got themselves Caleb Williams. And I think they feel good about where they are. But we're going to find out how good of a coach Matt Eberflus really is because he saved his job at the end of last season with the way the defense was playing and the way that the team overall was playing towards the end of the season, although they lost that game against the Green Bay Packers in week number 18 when they still technically had a chance to make the playoffs, but they weren't going to make it. But they had a chance to keep Green Bay out of the playoffs too, and they didn't take advantage. They had a chance to do what the Lions had did the previous year, which was beat Green Bay in the regular season finale in Green Bay and stop the Packers from making the playoffs. The Lions did it back in 2022. Unfortunately, the Bears could not do it last year. So we're going to see what Eberflus can do as a coach because he's got talent now. There's no doubt about it. That Bears team is talented. And if he can't get it done, they're going to get somebody in there that they think can. So we'll find out. We'll see. Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Damn Twin Shorty Sublime writes, why are we signing a Martavis Bryant when we clearly need a Stephon Gilmore? I'm trying to make it make sense. Here is my honest assessment of that particular angle. Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. were in Dallas last season with both of those players. He coached, or both of them coached Stephon Gilmore last season, and both went against Martavis Bryant in Dallas last season. If they wanted Stephon Gilmore, if they thought he could help and he was an upgrade over the guys that they currently have on this particular roster, they would have signed him or at least brought him in for a workout. The fact that they never kicked the tires, they never once even tried to bring in Stephon Gilmore. They instead signed Michael Davis. The fact that they brought Martavis Bryant in the spring and then brought him back again in the summer and actually signed him tells you what they think of the two players. One, they see value in bringing in, the other, not so much. So while a lot of fans are like, we should go get Stephon Gilmore, they're telling you by their actions, nah, we're good. And maybe they're also saying, I know a lot of you aren't, sold on our cornerback situation, and you shouldn't be. But we're not as worried about the corners right now because we haven't schemed anything up. And that's been my stance all along is what you're seeing from the corners isn't what you're going to see from them come the regular season. Because as Dan Quinn said today in his press conference or yesterday, it's not about scheme right now. We're not scheming anything up. It's about evaluating players. What can they do? What can't they do? We're just going to throw them out there. Mano y mano. Can you guard a guy? Yes or no? Okay, cool. So we know not to put you in those situations in the game, or at least not very often. We'll pick our spots, but we won't ask you to do that very often. But when they start scheming it up and they start taking specific routes away and they start applying pressure and the ball comes out quickly, that's when we'll know. That's when we'll know. And so I don't think they're as concerned about corner. But Dan Quinn also said, I'm looking at the cornerback, position, and I'm looking for competition. I want to see who steps up. This is a big week. You're going up against arguably the best receiving core in the NFL. I don't think we're going to see Odell Beckham Jr., but the rest of those guys are really good. So I don't think they're as concerned about corner as we are. I don't think they are that high on Stephon Gilmore at this point of his career as some of you are. And I think they feel like the receiver position could use some more oomph. And they think that a 32-year-old Martavis Bryant has a lot more left in the tank than a 32-year-old Stephon Gilmore. And I can't right now wholeheartedly tell you that they're wrong. A lot of wear and tear and a lot less tread on those Gilmore tires versus the Martavis Bryant tires. But again, we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell if they're making the right decision. But I get it. I understand why you're kind of flummoxed by some of the decision making there. But I trust them. They haven't led me astray yet. I trust them. Gregory Lightbody says, I know it's just camp, but what are your thoughts on Jaden Daniels? He looks good. Everything I've heard sounds good. Teammates are receiving him very well. I'm pleased with everything that is surrounding him right now in terms of his work ethic, um, the way that the players are embracing him, the amount of fun that he's having, the command of the offense, his ability to make checks at the line of scrimmage, set protections, get in and out of good and bad plays. Um, all of that stuff, the accuracy that he's throwing the football with, there's an aura around him right now, and we haven't seen this since 2012. So I'm feeling good about him right now. But again, small sample size. I want to see it when the lights really come on and the stage is its biggest and the lights are its brightest. Will he perform like the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback that he was at LSU? We'll see. But I've been very, very impressed. DJ23 says, I just watched Supercell. Enjoyed, excited they announced season 2. Yeah, it was good. We pretty much binge watched it in either a day or two. It was really good. My wife loved it, and she didn't love how it ended, but it's hard to please my wife at the end of a season. Like you've got to like do some extreme shit for her to go, whoa. Like, but all in all, she really enjoyed Supercell. So did I. I talked about that on maybe 10 episodes ago. It's been a while since I watched that. But yeah, I kind of figured with the way it hit the Netflix platform and how well it did when it first came out, it was #1 on Netflix for like a full week. And then it was in the top 5 of most watched probably for another week or two. So it did really well. I expected them to pick up a second season, so that's not a surprise. The Phillies Ace 34. It's been a little while. Good to hear from you. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, my guy, Louie T, guess who's back again? How are you? Doing well, man. Good to hear from you. Fly, Eagles, fly. Washington will be in the mix. Hopefully, Vic can put a decent D. Much love, bro. We'll see what Vic Fangio is able to do. A lot of people think he's washed at this point of his career as a defensive coordinator. He's at home. He's comfortable. The Eagles definitely needed a change of scenery with the defensive play calling. So we'll see what happens. And if Vic can whip this defense into shape this upcoming season, should be fun. I don't know if Washington will be in the mix or not, but I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it, but I'm just going to enjoy the ride. As a wise man once said, lay back, kick it, and enjoy the ride. That's what I'm finna do. That's what I'm finna do. So let's get to our final segment of the show and garbage time. So week 2 of the preseason starts on Thursday. It is Wednesday on the East Coast. So this is a weird week. Let's take a look at the preseason slate for week 2. I was expecting, so let's go to the slate first before I start running my mouth. What jumps out to you about this slate? I'm gonna throw this to the audience out there. There's over 110 of you out there. I'm gonna throw this to you. What strikes you as odd about this particular slate of games? And see if we're kind of thinking the same as we look at this slate. This is a weird setup for me. See what you guys have to say. And then if you guys don't know or we're not thinking the same thing, I will explain myself and my thought process as I look at this slate. Abel Ambrosio says no Friday games. That is a very weird development. Yes, that is not exactly what I was thinking about, but that is very weird that it is so heavy on Saturday. No Friday games. I can't remember the last time there was a week 2 of the preseason where they just skipped Friday and loaded up on Saturday. John Wynn says, "Wait, where's Thursday night's game? There's a Thursday game, which is fine. There's one. There's usually two, but one's fine, right?" Um, so there are 13 games on Saturday, one on Thursday, two on Sunday. Here's the thing that I find interesting. Okay. Normally, when you get to week 2 of the preseason, you start to get primetime games, right? So, because they need work too, right? So you throw a game on Sunday Night Football, and it might not be the A team. It might not be Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico calling the game, but they'll throw a couple of guys out there. They'll let Chris Collinsworth's son call the game, right? Jax or whatever his name is, and whoever else they want to put in there, right? Tony Dungy, somebody like that. And then you normally get a Monday night game. Remember last year, week 2 of the preseason? Who did we play? You remember? We broke the Baltimore Ravens streak on Monday night football last year, week 2 of the preseason. I'm shocked that there's no Monday night game here, no Sunday night game. There and then they doubled up at 8 o'clock. So you're forcing me to choose between Fox and NFL Network on Sunday night. What is the purpose of that? If you're going to put both of those games on Sunday, why not stagger them? You're in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Why not make that a 4:30 kick? Why are both of those games on at 8 and you're forcing me to choose between NFL Network and Fox at 8 on Sunday? What is the significance of that? Why not push one of those games to Monday? Why not, have one of those games be, earlier in the day? Like, what are we doing here? Why are there 13 games on Saturday and no game on Friday? Did I miss something about August 16th? Is that a no football, NFL football day or something? Did I miss a memo? Like, why do we have 13 games on Saturday? I don't know. But the thing that jumped out to me about this slate was no Sunday night game like on, NBC, but they got Sunday Night Football, NFL Network, and on Fox, which is fine. No Monday night game is the thing that was really odd for me. No Monday night? It's not going to do it, huh? And I know they don't really want, like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman really don't want to do that shit. Like I could tell last year when they did our game, when we played the Ravens, that even though it was an entertaining game and they said it multiple times, like, hey, this was actually a fun game. And Joey Sly made a game-winning kick. And it was a back and forth game. Like you could tell we really wanted it. They wanted to extend their streak. It was very entertaining. It was still a preseason game. And they were like, why are we doing this shit? So maybe they were like, yo, don't give us no preseason games. We don't want to do that shit again. So they already did the Hall of Fame game, did Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. So that might have been their one preseason game that they like, look, we're going to give you one preseason game. You can pick when we do it. You want it to be the Hall of Fame game? Cool. Do not ask us to do another one if we're doing the Hall of Fame game. If you let NBC handle the Hall of Fame game, then we'll do a preseason game in week 2. You got to pick, though. You're not getting us but one time in the preseason. We took the Hall of Fame game, and so they're like, we are not coming back. Touche. Let's look at the actual slate of games, right? So, first Thursday, Patriots. So I was right. The Patriots do play on Thursday for the second consecutive week. They played on Thursday last week against Carolina. They're playing on Thursday this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. So that joint practice, I would assume, will take place tomorrow, if there's a joint practice. Or he might be talking about the game itself, that he doesn't want them to get in a fight. I can't imagine them having a joint practice the day before a game. Either they had the joint practice yesterday, or there aren't any joint practices between them and the Eagles. And he was talking about the actual game itself. It was funny, some of the comments. I meant to mention this when I was talking about that. I went in the comment section just to see people cutting up. And people was like, yo, if that's the case, I need Drake May to get in a full melee with somebody. I need him to be brawling. Like, I need that man playing the entire game. That was funny. I wonder if he would consider him a starter or a young player that needs to play. So if which side of the fence is Drake May on? Is he the guy that wouldn't play because technically he's not a starter, so he wouldn't play at all? Or would you make him play the entire game? I don't know. That'd be interesting if Drake May decided to throw hands, against the Philadelphia Eagles, but I digress. Saturday, 13 contests on Saturday. Let's see if we can pick out any ones of significance. So the NFL Network games, as you can see, Bengals Bears at 1, Lions Chiefs at 4, and Steelers Bills or Bills Steelers at 7, and Cowboys Raiders at 10. But Bengals and Bears could be interesting. I don't think the Bengals are going to play Joe Burrow again. They played him in week 1. I can't imagine them playing him again in week 2. Will Caleb Williams play is the question, as the Bears go home for the first time in the preseason in front of their home faithful. And will they allow Caleb Williams to see the field once more? Because I don't think he's going to play in the third preseason game. Will they allow him to see the field? My guess is yes. He'll be out there again in preseason game number 2. And if that's the case, sign me up. Lions and Chiefs, I don't think there's going to be any value to that game. The Lions did not play their starters last week. Now, are there joint practices with the Chiefs lined up? Don't know the answer to that. But Mahomes played last week. I don't know if he's going to play again this week. We'll find out if there's significance to that game or not. The Jets already said Aaron Rodgers isn't playing in the preseason. And the Panthers, they hid Bryce Young last week for reasons unknown. I'm going to charge it to the weather, and I'm going to stick to that excuse, which is an acceptable one. He needs to be out on the field in week 2 of the preseason, or else I've got questions. Lots and lots of questions. So that game should hold some significance there. Dolphins and Commanders, Jaden Daniels is going to see the field, so that's enough for me. I was going to watch anyway, so it didn't matter. I was going to watch my boys regardless. Seahawks and Titans, I'm going to be checking for Sam Howell, so I'll be checking that one out. And Will Levis, I think, is going to play again, and he played well last week, so I'll be watching that one. Bucks and Jags. Oh, man, I wonder if Trevor Lawrence is going to see the field again. Even if he doesn't, I think I want to see Mac Jones again. He looked really good last week. So there may be a slight twinge of interest there because I don't think the Bucks are going to play their starters again. Falcons and Ravens. The Ravens never play their starters in the preseason. The Falcons are going to play Michael Penix Jr. Enough said. I'm there. Giants, Texans. Interesting. CJ Stroud may play. He may not play. Daniel Jones may play. He may not play. Not that I care. I don't know if that game holds a ton of interest for me or not. The Vikings and Browns just lost any intrigue that I had whatsoever. Deshaun Watson already announced he's not playing, and now there's no J.J. McCarthy, so there's no Louie T. Cardinals, Colts. Anthony Richardson looked off last week. Understandable. Hadn't played since week 5 of last season. There's no Kyler Murray. So if there's no Anthony Richardson, then there's no Louie T, right? There's no reason for me to show up. But I assume that Anthony Richardson's going to get back out there. So I think I'm going to dial into that one. Bills, Steelers, Russell Wilson is playing in that game. So naturally, I'll check it out. I don't think Josh Allen is going to play again, but then again, we'll see. Chargers and Rams will be the worst preseason game of all time. So I I would I don't know if you could pay me to watch that game. I don't know if you can pay me to watch that game. Same thing with the Raiders. Well, the Raiders are going to make a decision at quarterback. They're going to start their guys. And then Trey Lance is playing, so I'm kind of intrigued. There. Sunday, Packers, Broncos. I want to see Bo Nix, so I'm gonna dial in there. And 49ers and or Saints and 49ers. I'll probably tune in to see Spencer Rattler late. If he gets in late. He might get in a little sooner this week. We'll see. But I'll check. I'll tune in for that probably. But that's the slate of games in week 2. It's not a bad slate. It's not as good as the first week of the preseason, but it's the preseason. Take it for what it's worth and get what you can get. I always like when they take two teams that don't give a shit about the preseason and put them against one another, because they make it easy on me. Okay, you don't have to watch that game if you don't want to. I'm not going to watch Chargers and Rams, right? Thank you. I appreciate that. If the Panthers aren't playing Bryce Young, thank you. I won't watch Jets and Panthers, right? If CJ Stroud isn't playing against the Giants, well, thank you. I don't have to watch the Giants game, right? I'm not watching the Vikings and Browns. Thank you, right? So I like when they put two teams against each other where if they're not going to play their starters, good. Don't make me watch a game because one team is playing their guys and the other isn't. If you're not playing your starters, so be it. So, and I'm hoping to get the week started off right with Drake May getting at least 3 possessions to make up for the 1 possession stinker that they gave us on Thursday last week. Again, weather is the excuse I'm rolling with. We'll see if they put him out there longer this week. So that's the week 2 slate of preseason games. As I told you guys before, I will be out of town this week. So I'll be out of the office. I won't be covering this week's preseason tilt like I was last week. I'll be out of the office from Thursday to Monday. And I will return maybe Monday night. If not Monday night, then Tuesday. We'll see how my reception is. I'll take my laptop with me. And if I can get a good enough signal, you might see the kids show up. But the likelihood is you won't see me, and that's fine. The Phillies ace. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, you know what's crazy? We both have old OC from former rivals being objective. What do you anticipate for our teams? Will you be standing in cold again? I don't anticipate us being really good this season. So what I do anticipate is us taking steps to becoming good, which is all I'm asking for them to do. I'm not expecting some miraculous turnaround like the Texans had last year. That's fool's gold to me. A lot of fans are buying into that narrative. Good for them. Bless their hearts. I hope they get what their heart desires, because if they do, then that means we all win. but the likelihood is we'll be a 7, win team, 8 maybe if the ball bounces our way. Somehow we make it to 9, but we're somewhere in that neighborhood, 6 to 9 wins, and I don't know what's going to happen with the division, but I can say that Dallas feels a little iffy. I say this. I feel like the division as a whole has gotten tighter. I'll say that. Doesn't feel like this impossible gap that is between Dallas, Philadelphia, and the Giants and Commanders. For the last 2 years, it felt like, even though my predictions for the upcoming season, those seasons didn't kind of make it feel like there was this enormous gap. But from a talent perspective, from a coaching perspective, there was a sizable gap between those rosters and the one that was in Washington and the coaching staff. Even though the Eagles coaching staff imploded at the end of last season, they were still 20 million times better than the staff that we had in Washington. So feels like the level of competency in Washington has closed the gap. Feels like the Giants have, added some talent to their roster and they're heading in the right direction. Feels like the Cowboys are kind of falling back to the pack a bit. And it kind of feels like the Eagles could be the standalone team in this division, but there are question marks with their coaching staff. And that is enough to make me feel like even they aren't as far ahead of the pack as on paper they may appear. So when it's all said and done, the Eagles and the Cowboys are still the two best teams, should be, theoretically speaking, the two best teams in this division. And it'll probably come down to those two teams when you're talking about the division this season. But I think this will be the last year where it'll just be those two teams fighting for the division and supremacy in the NFC East. I do think Washington is going to throw their name in the hat come next year. Even if they don't win it, they'll be a part of that discussion. And it's hard for me to include the Giants in that discussion right now because their quarterback situation is going to ultimately dictate where they are in the division. If Daniel Jones goes back to his 2022 form this season, well, the Giants are in that conversation too. If he is the Daniel Jones that we've come to know and love, that's basic and is not, worth the money that they paid him after his 2022 outburst, then they're going to have to find a quarterback next year. And if that's the case, then you're probably going to have to take a step backwards. So we will see. But I digress. That is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the 440th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time, whenever the hell that is, here on the podcast, sometime next week, obviously. But in the meantime, enjoy the football, enjoy the festivities, enjoy your family, stay safe, and we will reconvene next week, probably Tuesday on the Louie T Network podcast. And we'll take a look at Hard Knocks episode 3. We'll jump into week 3 of the preseason. We'll probably have back-to-back episodes, probably Tuesday and Wednesday of the podcast. And I'll probably take an opportunity to recap preseason week number 2 on Tuesday to go along with Hard Knocks episode 3. And then on Wednesday, we'll come back and talk about preseason week number 3 and get you prepared for that. So we'll shift things a little bit next week as I get back into the saddle. But you guys, take care. I really appreciate you guys kicking it with the kid on some late night Louie T Network podcast flavor. You guys enjoy your weekend, and I will see you on the other side of my quick getaway to celebrate my granny. You guys have a good one. God bless. Good night.